Good evening, Super League fans across the globe, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I can see Palmer and several other celebrities have turned up already. In the studio tonight, we've got a couple of our own celebrities. So we've got, first of all, we've got someone who's got their phone on or something in the background. First of all, we've got BTEC manager Ian Edwards. Hello, Ian.
Hi, sorry about the loud phone. It's all gone now.
That's all right. And we've got the Bolton manager Ryan as well in the studio.
Good evening, gents. Hope everyone's well.
The virtual studio, obviously, we are clearly isolating ourselves as we all should be. No trips to castles or anything planned for the Super League this week.
I've actually drove up to Durham just to see some family.
Just coincided with your wife's birthday. Miraculous. Anyway, this is not a political broadcast of anyway. I mean, as much as I can criticize, as I mentioned earlier today, as much as I can criticize Dominic Cummings for being a person.
That's too easy.
who would edit his Telford team and then claim that he'd won the won the Champions League with the original team. Then that's maybe true of him, but I would also not like to see Jeremy Corbyn try to mount the ISO file and actually get the game to work. So I think you can criticize both ways in terms of a Champman perspective, but that's going to be the end of the politics, I think. And instead, let's have a look at the results from last weekend. If we start with you, Ryan, Bolton Phoenix at home to Aster, 4-0 victory. Satisfying result for you, I guess.
Yeah, probably our best performance to date. Really, absolutely blew them away first half. We usually struggle a bit against Aster, but to get that, I mean, to just come out of the blocks flying like that, Marcelo scoring in the 3rd minute was really, really great. Yeah, I really like when I get 4 different scorers as well. I know some people like the main striker getting a hat-trick or something like that to make sure I can follow up the charts, but when it's split across the team, you get the bit more confidence that if you lose a player or two, that you've got other players who can do the job. So, yeah, not too concerned that we didn't add to it in the second half. You know what the game's like. Sometimes you just kind of drift off again in the second half after you put in a performance like that. But yeah,
that's true.
Really good performance. It's probably our best performance since towards the end of last season, definitely before the playoffs started. Last season.
Yeah, a lot of confidence to take into future matches, and as you say, it's nice to get there 4 people on the scoreboard. Not the best night for Aster, but we'll come back to talk to some of the other teams as we move through the evening's matches. The BTEC, good result for you guys, Ian, away to Churchtown Massh, 2-0 victory. Pizarro and Palermo both on the score sheet after having been, subject to a little bit of a kind of, I wouldn't say criticism, but just questioning of their contributions. 6-3 it's not bad, Palermo, and he did like a goal every other game last season. Pizarro, a bit of an unknown quantity due to his injuries last season, but he seems to have come out firing this year. So I take it you're quite confident and happy with your side's performance.
Yeah, I'm happy with those guys. It's a difficult one because I always get accused of spending my squad's been amassed on the budget of about $1 billion according to a lot of people, and I don't think I throw that much money around, but I've got some good players. Those 2 strikers that you talk about, they both score a goal every 2 games, and if you're playing a couple up front, you're going to get a goal a game from your strike partnership. Which is okay, and if they're backed up by a decent team, a decent squad, then you don't have too many complaints. It's interesting now. You ask, Ryan talks about probably one of the best games his side has played, and even though we beat Ryan this season, I actually think that away to Chudley is about as good as my team's played under me. Full stop. I think everyone played okay. We were in control for most of the game. We hit the woodwork 2 or 3 times. It could have been 4 or 5-0. So yeah, really happy. And Chudley have been showing some green shoots as well recently. So yeah. Really good.
Yeah, well, we'll see what Chutley can do tonight. I think. I mean, he didn't do too bad a job. I think his new goalkeeper Andre there, who's maybe hoping that he would solve some of the problems, but it is an issue for some of the teams. So I can definitely see why you splashed the 20 million on Buffon early on the season. Just a couple of words on some of the other games. If we look at actually, Ian, I'll take the Churchtown one with you because I want to speak up to Brian about one of the other games. So Churchtown, how surprised or impressed were you with Churchtown? Valen, I mean, a little bit like in the final. I mean, they scored 2 on 9, but the goalkeeper didn't have a great evening, and in the end they lost 4-2 to Churchtown. What do you make of that, Ian? That result?
I think with Churchtown recently, it's been a bit of a roll of the dice, and you see what you get, and you know that they're capable of really brilliant performances, and last couple of surprising weeks they haven't been as good, but they're always consistently one of the best three teams I think in the league. They got great players, and every time they went forward, they looked like they were going to score. I think stats wise, Valen are going to probably look at their team and think, short of a decent goalkeeper performance, they come away with something there.
Yeah, and a bit of a bogey team now for Valen. Sorry for Valen is Churchtown. That's 3 games they've played them and they've yet to beat them obviously. So we'll see how that develops over the course of the season. Ryan, I wanted to speak to you about Palmerthinaikos. Obviously, not so much about the result, but because that kind of goes speaks for itself a little bit. I mean, Ehiok, who's come in for some 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 criticism in the online community. We might come back to that later on. But from your perspective, Thierry Henry obviously made a good start at Palmerthinaikos as well. And how do you see your protege developing? I mean, he's top of the league now.
Protege, that's better than what I was getting last season. He was the guy in charge last season, wasn't he? But he's made a great start, hasn't he? I mean, I must admit we had a kind of a deep chat pre-season about tactics and what things work in the Super League and what things don't. And he's gone away and he's thought about it and he's come with this kind of 2-7-1 as he calls it, and it seems to be working for him. Yeah, as you alluded to, Henri's made a really good start, as has Cole and Riquelme. The other signing he's got, and the other one he got from me actually, Udeze, is probably, in my opinion, probably been his best signing, because he's now got 2 absolute quality centre backs who seem to be doing the job, and I think, yeah, they're the ones. A couple of surprises in there. He's picked Trezeguet ahead of Stand, which I know you're not a huge. You probably wouldn't agree with that selection, but Trezeguet seems to be scoring for him. Mm-hmm. Henri, a lot of people say he's playing out of position, but he's getting the goals and getting the assists. I think I know for a fact Mac is absolutely over the moon with the start he's made. I don't. You want to talk about his fixture list? Maybe it hasn't been as challenging as some of the other teams, and he's obviously got a lot tougher game tonight against one of the favourites. So yeah, and I'll let Ian talk about that a bit more. But I think he's. It should be tonight. Should be a good game. It's probably the first real test. From speaking to Maka, he will say that he's only had 10 minutes of bad play all season, and that in that 10 minutes, Hull's scored twice, and that cost him the game. Apart from that, he's probably been the best team throughout the game in every game he's played.
Yeah, without being overly kind of critical of any of the teams that he has played. I mean, Chotley, Hooligans, Sloths, and Hoddesdon and Swindon. So 5 of them were all teams that didn't make the playoffs last year. I mean, he obviously had that great win away against Churchtown, the 3-1. But the rest of the games have been against teams from the bottom half, if you wanna call it that. And now he's got BTEC, who as we say are probably a resurgent side. Then yourselves, Midlothian, Aster, and then Ardsley, and then Valen, and so he's got all of the playoff guys coming up now. So it'll be interesting to see how that obviously develops. Of the remaining results of the evening, we can mention that Midlothian beat Hoddesdon Hornets away. Hooligans lost at home to Ardsley after a controversial, not last minute, but very late penalty anyway to Ardsley, which Nicky Ferenko converted. I think it was Aymar who backed into someone, and Dragons are finally finding some form, getting some goals, and yeah, it's. I mean, I was going to say it's a turnaround, but it was against Sloths, who, I mean, that was the first goal of the season. So I don't think we can say that it's quite a fresh dawn for the Dragons yet. And obviously they play you tonight, Ryan. So it'll be interesting to see how that one pans out. But that's the results from last week. And if we look at the table, we already spoke about Palmerthinaikos being up first. Then we've got Ardsley Celtic. Ian, how do you rate Hodge's start to the season? He was contemplating giving it 7 games and then seeing how it went, but he's had a great start, hasn't he?
Yes, I think, I guess most of us, certainly for me, I'm kind of glad they have as well, because I like Hodge and I think he's a great part of the league, and I'd have been pretty disappointed to have seen him disappear after 7 games. So after 6 games being such a decent position, I think is pretty good. I mean, when he first took over as SLF, he had a fantastic squad, and I kind of backed him to pretty much, blow away everyone in sight when he sort of took over from Timmy, and he did pretty much nothing with them, and now he finally seems to have really stamped a real identity of his own on this Ardsley side, and I think he's doing a fantastic job, and I think. A shout out to him tonight anyway, because it's his 50th game in charge.
50th game in charge, yeah. Imagine if modern managers were afforded that luxury of having 50 games to settle aside. That would be something to behold. But yeah,
I think it's probably like 50 games in charge. He's at home at Swindon. He's probably hoping to celebrate it in style, and who's to say he won't.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what the Fifey's come up with tactics wise. Obviously, he has been the innovator is a strong word, but
Tinkerman.
He's been the Tinkerman. 50 says Swindon, says Fifey. How many have I done then? I don't know. You should. Do you not have a book? Hodgie has a book. He counts these.
You can probably count on him. You can probably count on one hand how many he's won.
I think Palmer's already had a go tonight, hasn't he? Something about a wooden spoon. Anyway, it's all good fun. Let's see, Dragon. Sorry, I am literally putting last hand on the preparations and the kind of the fixture list for tonight. As I mentioned earlier to the co-commentators, I was doing some flower arranging earlier, which took up most of my evening. Anyway, these are our fixtures as they go tonight. We're going to skip the 2 co-commentators and leave them until the end. So we're going to just take it from the top as it is. So we've got Ardsley Celtic coming up first against Swindon. Then we're going to go to Chudley against the Sloths. We're going to have Churchtown against Hools, Midlothian against Aster, Valen against Hoddesdon, and then we'll take BTEC versus Palmerthinaikos, and we shall leave the Dragon Destroyers against Bolton Phoenix until the end. Just so you know that's the running order if you're watching your bedtimes and things like that. So, and we'll try and keep it to the sort of usual an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2 hours and 15, depending. We'll see. First up, as mentioned, we've got Ardsley against Swindon, so we need to do something fantastic here. And first up, let's have a look at the Ardsley Celtic. I already asked Ian a little bit about Ardsley, so I'll come to you, Hodgie, and you can have your say on Ryan on Hodgie's side and what he's been up to this season. I think Patrick Vieira. I mean, we spoke about it very, very briefly on the show last time when it was the actual game. I mean, 3 9s in a row, 850 average. He wasn't that great last season, but he's got to be one of the key factors with his 9 tackles to the success that Hodgie's having, isn't he?
He's the best player on the game, no doubt, in my opinion. He's absolutely fantastic, and he's right. You're right in what you're saying. He didn't really get him playing well last season, but he seems to have settled. And I think a lot of it is down to the fact that Hodgie's settled on a formation a little bit. He really likes this 3 up top. He likes the 2 defensive midfielders, and I know it might look a little bit strange on paper, but it seems to be really working. Vieira himself, 2 man of the matches. He's just solid. He looks, if anything, he's got 3 players up front, and he looks less likely to concede. He was conceding for fun last year, wasn't he? So,
and early on this season as well, he kind of struggled a little bit, but it seems as if it's kind of settled down. I guess. I mean, he's had some injuries at the back as well, as Interi is out now. So he's obviously shuffling it around a little bit. But the strike force that he's getting goals out of them. So who's to say he can't do that as well tonight? And as you mentioned, he's getting a tactic. He's kind of sticking with it. I mean, I'm kind of glad to see that people are trying to do that, because it's less work for me. Apart from that, I don't really mind what you do with your tactics, but something like giving the tactic like 7-8 games or something like that. I know not everyone can afford it if it goes really, really badly, but it seems to work out for Hodgie and his Ardsley side this time around.
I heard Hodgie say that he has the best attack in the league. I think in a comment on Twitter before. Is that right? He's no one scored as many as Ardsley yet this season.
I think he's on 16 goals maybe. I think he's maybe got 1 goal more than the nearest rivals. We should be able to see that, shouldn't we? Yeah, he's got 16, and then yourselves, Valen, and Churchtown have all got 15. So he has scored more than everyone else. Right. He's also conceded quite a lot, but 5 wins and 1 defeat.
I got that one wrong. I do about the conceding goals. I didn't realise he conceded so many.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first 3 or 4 games he conceded 4 in each or something like that, didn't he? So that was, but the last couple of games have been much better for him. And what do you make of their fullbacks, obviously compared to your own? I mean, I know that most of the managers in the league would probably rate both Sambrosa and Dede quite highly, and possibly higher than Candela and Sauri as well. But it's not a bad pairing he's got there either, is it?
Not at all. And I'd say they're more of a out and out defensive wing backs, really. I'd say, I think you'd struggle to get a tune out of Zambrosta at right back, and Dede sometimes goes missing if you play him at left back. I know Candela and Zuri are pretty solid when you play them at full back as well. So, yeah, I would say that they're 2 absolute quality players, but probably a little bit more defensive. You probably get less assists out of them than you would Dede and Zambrosta.
Yeah.
But you might get more clean sheets in another world.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what he's hoping for. Oh God, it's this winter. I was going to say, what is Fifey talking about? It says my kid is back. Yes, it is back. So it means that I have no idea what's going to happen with your team in the first half, but we'll see, and in the second. Let's have a look at the formation. I feel like there should be arrows on this one, but I'll double check that. While Ian, you can talk me through what you think of this Swindon lineup formation thing.
Well, I guess it's no surprise that Fifey goes with another formation, a different formation for every game this season. I guess we're quite close to the half-track Thiago. I guess you put Ronaldo in his proper position, then you are looking, and then maybe Zidane with a little arrow. You are looking at Hull's formation. What do I make of it? Don't know. You got to give up guessing what the guy is thinking, haven't you? I mean, I hope he looks at that and he's playing to win rather than not lose, because I think most of the games this season he's played to not lose. I just get the feeling that again maybe he's doing the same rather than playing to win the game. And if you go toe to toe against Ardsley this season, now I can tell you better than most. They'll probably walk all over you. So maybe he's. Maybe he has got the right idea. Maybe he's not. He's not gone all out.
Maybe. I mean, it's quite the formation, 1 on top is maybe not the most attacking, but he's definitely gone a relatively attacking with the selection. Yeah, he's got 5 attacking players up there, and then 3 defenders, 2 midfielders, and 4 sort of like AMC's strikery things. So it'll be.
He might have the right idea, in as much as he's gone 3 centre backs against 3 strikers. And as far as 3 centre back scores, he's got 3 good ones. So yeah, why not? Yeah.
And there's a lot of love from Midlothian assistant manager Neil, who's joined as well. A lot of love for El Mando, which is perhaps a bit surprising. But yeah, sorry, Ryan, you were going to say.
Yeah, I was completely agree with Ian about it's something I thought about when whenever I played Churchtown in the past and they've gone with 3 up front, it's kind of been hit and miss. I don't know if I'm going to win 4-0 or get beat 4-0. So by having, he's kind of, Swindon knows Ardsley's going to play 3 up top, and he's countered that by playing 3 at the back, which is something which I've thought about for my games against Ardsley and Churchtown later on in the season when they come. It's something that I might switch to. So it definitely is something to think about. But I will pick up as quickly. I'll just say something. He said that he's played to win every game. He definitely didn't play to win against me. He definitely didn't play to win against Palmerthinaikos. So, I agree that this is a more attacking formation, which might work tonight, but he's definitely not been doing that. I'm not letting him get away with that one.
Fair enough. Predictions, everyone. Kieran says 2-1 to the hot stepper, presumably a reference to Fifey's Dan's contribution earlier tonight. Andreas says 3-1, presumably for the home side. Alf 4-4. Guys in the studio, what do you reckon?
It's a home for me. It's nice to play 3 at the back to compensate the the three going forward, but I think it invites the pressure on, and I think Ardsley have got too much power not to get a couple of goals.
What do you reckon, Ryan?
I tend to agree with Ian. I like Swindon's lineup, but away from home against a team second in the league, you can't really look past Ardsley. Probably 2-0, maybe 3-1. 2 goal. I'll go with a 2 goal margin for the home team.
Okay, well, let's kick off the first half and see how it goes. Early yellow card to Ardsley defender there. But also an early Ardsley goal, Morientes, after 9 minutes.
Oh, I can't really read Swindon at all.
Me neither. We're just going to have to go with it. Oh, if that's an early injury to Montero, that's not going to be...
that's the one centre-back you don't want coming off, isn't it, as well?
I was going to say...
Don't tell me it substitutes Mills.
Yeah, that's the thing. I am going to have to take Montero off for Danny Mills. Danny Mills is right-footed, so he should probably...
It's a different team now.
I'll just have to put Ehiok out there. I mean, I don't know if Fifey would normally do that, but he's either footed.
Mendes in the middle.
Sorry. Yeah. I would move them across like that. I think that makes more sense. Danny Mills, I mean,
I agree.
He's got to play on that side, and Ehiok on the left with being left-footed to cover for the wings. That's got to be it. That's unfortunate because Montero is kind of a rock at the back that he's got there, so he's not going to be happy with that, and hopefully Montero will be back again soon to pick up some more yellow cards.
Yeah, he's playing for Swindon though, so he's a rock in a hard place. That's what.
Well, I can say that actually the kind of vote before the game was 42% in favour of Ardsley and 33% in favour of Swindon. It has been fairly even, to be honest. I mean, they've not overwhelmed them completely, Ardsley, so far in the first half. Ryan, as our resident Ardsley expert, what do you make of the first half performance? Did you expect? I mean, Patrick Vieira, for example, is having a shocker.
Yeah, he's solid, if not overwhelming. He's got the lead. He's, in my opinion, hasn't looked like conceding. He's got one of his strikers scoring. Yeah, the only thing you would pick up on is the 6 from Patrick Vieira. But what I would say is that you know that he's not going to finish on a 6, and it's like, he's going to get better. And I can't see him conceding, so it's a matter of time, in my opinion, before he gets a couple more. I think, Patrick Vieira won't finish on 6, no chance.
Yeah. Ian, his counterpart, Clarence Seedorf, is doing a lot worse. He's getting a 4 so far. It doesn't look as if it has worked that well, this particular formation.
It doesn't, and Seedorf, he's one of those guys who, I mean, he got him from Ardsley, didn't he? And it's always up for debate what you do with Seedorf, the same as it's always up for debate what you do with Zidane. The one thing I would say that Swindon do have in their favour, I mean, I'm probably totally wrong, but I would imagine that they would be, for shots on goal to actual goals going in, I would say Swindon are pretty high up there. So if they can get a couple of chances in the second half, there is a good chance that maybe they can get a goal or two. It's just a case of whether they can keep Ardsley out.
Yeah.
For the second half, which I don't think they can really.
Well, we'll see. They're going to have Danny Mills up at his playing at his very best, which he has been doing so far. I mean, three tackles, 3-1, 2 headers, and 2-1, both and key ones all over the place. So we'll see what happens in the second half. With regards to that. Presumably, Ardsley will see this one home, but as Ian pointed out, maybe Swindon can be quite clinical. So if they do get a chance or two, then maybe we will see a comeback for them. They've certainly got the screen flashing early on in the second half.
Even if you can't read it.
Even if I have no idea what's going on when they do. They could be passing the ball around. It looks as if
there's something going on.
Patrick Vieira is committing free kicks and having generally a bit of a shocker, to be completely honest.
He's up against Seedorf and Zidane, and Jimmy, the two world-class players, and I know they sometimes don't get the kind of credit they deserve on here, but yeah.
Penalty
that went very quickly.
Penalty says Fife in the comments. I don't know, Fife. Was there a penalty? I mean, did any of you guys see there was a claim for a penalty? Oh, it was there. Yeah. Mills fouls Tomadeira by holding onto his shirt. Yeah, it was a penalty for absolute stonewall penalty turned down. Yeah, for them, not for you, Fifey. No, earlier he says. Oh yeah, there we go. Vieira tackled. That was the one I saw when I said that Vieira's having a shocker. Vieira tackled and knocked Claudio to the ground. It doesn't seem that it doesn't say anything about him not getting the ball. This one is a little bit more blatant, I think.
Shoulder to shoulder, that one.
Yeah, probably. I think holding onto his shirt is a little bit more of a stone wall if you're looking for stone walls anywhere. As cleverly predicted by our resident expert, Mr. Ryan Aldred, Patrick Vieira did play up in the second half and earned himself a 9, which is good. Coufret coming in and getting a 9 as well. He's not been a regular exactly, but he's made a good start. That's an 8, a 9, and now another 8. I think he has. Apart from
Game of the week last week.
Was he now? Apart from not scoring any more goals, Hodge is going to be pleased with his clean sheet, high scoring, high numbers for his players, and a goal from Morientes. Solid performance, Ryan. Do you agree?
Yeah, solid performance. He'll probably look back at that and think, I probably could. You'd like a more of a statement victory at home to Swindon, but when it comes to push and shove, he's got the 3 points. None of his team have really played terrible apart from Tomadeira. So yeah, I mean, you take the 3 points and run. Yeah, a clean sheet as well, which is a rarity.
Yeah, absolutely. And Swindon, Ian, Danny Mills comes in and gets an 8, and no one else really stands out as excellent performers. Cambiasso and Foe, they didn't really do enough in those DMC roles. Seedorf and Zidane getting 6s in the MC roles. And then actually the front 3 didn't do too bad. They could have had a penalty maybe, but no shots from any of them. It's got to be a little bit concerning, hasn't it?
I think 1 to 11 is concerning. I think your guy who comes on and gets an 8 is only because he played 24 minutes less than the rest of the team. If he'd have started, he'd probably got a 7 or a 6. I don't think it was great from start to finish, really. I think it was all about Ardsley. You've got a centre-back there who's last week was probably the only centre-back worthy of getting in Team of the Week, and he's got man of the match. I'm sure Ryan will agree as well. You've got Ibrahim Said there who's got a 9 and has controlled the game as a top player that he is as well.
You know my opinions on Saeed, but I'll say he had a good game there. But I would point out though that by all usual methods, and Danny Mills came off the bench there and didn't concede a goal. Therefore, he's a shoo-in for Team of the Week next week, is he? I know his team got beat and he didn't really do much, but surely he didn't concede.
I mean, surely for three key headers, he won all his headers. I don't know when did Danny Mills become like a fucking an aerial kind of like presence? I don't know. Anyway, he did okay, Danny Mills. Maybe
only the manager can tell you why he wasn't starting.
Yeah, maybe he was out to up against someone short and incapable. I don't know. Either way, not the greatest performance from the rest of the Sweden side, but we'll no doubt see a new formation to counter that next week anyway. Next up, we have a Chutley against the Sloths. So let's do that.
I'm just going to go and get a beer, so if you want to let Ian go first, I'll be back in 2 secs.
Yeah. We can definitely do that. Yeah, Ian. So let's talk about your opponents from last week with Chutley, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They've changed up their formation a little bit. I think he's moved the 2 central midfielders up to AMC roles instead. I think that was kind of where he was lacking in your game, that he didn't really create a whole lot. I think it was just Bauma who did a little bit, and no one else was really living up to expectations.
Yeah, I mean, I think Scott's in a similar situation that Chris Max found himself in. I mean, he's inherited a team. He's on one window, and I think he's kind of made the team his. Agat's come in and done really well, but he's not really played in the same position each game. Obviously, Boomer, he's got one of the best players in the Super League, in my opinion. If I didn't have normally Z Roberto down there, Boomer would be. I'd love Boomer down there. He hasn't quite decided who his main striker is, although he seems to think that whoever that striker is going to be the one up top.
Mm-hmm.
But there has definitely been a shift towards Chudley looking like a good side and looking like they're heading in the right direction. So. I guess goalkeepers and also an issue. For me, I look at that squad and I would just stick with Westerveld, and if they have 5 or 6, he stays. But I think he's going in the right direction. He's Scott. Yeah, good lad, good squad, good team. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see if the changes that he's made are going to make a difference. Obviously, I think he's got quite a few home games in a row now, so I think he was really looking for a return from them. So it'll be interesting to see. Amoroso, someone we've not seen a huge amount of, and when we have, it's not been for this season. It's not been anything in particular. He did quite well when he came on a couple of games last season. Harasimovic, of course, is a bit of an unknown quantity, still quite young, but he has a good right hand column, as they say. So
I think Harasimovic maybe is under maybe a little bit of pressure from his number one fan. His lad's a big Harasimovic fan, isn't he? I know his lad plays a lot of champ and he's a big Harasimovic fan. So maybe he wants to get him in there and doing well for his number one supporter, which is also admirable.
Yeah.
Is Mac unavailable, or is that a choice?
Who?
Matt Kerr.
I think he's just dropped for being awful.
Dropped for being awful, right?
Yeah, I think he scored like not last week but the week before. But then I think he was very poor, and I think he was very poor before that. So and I think obviously just going with the AMCs, I think he's got better options if he's not. I don't know. Okay. He could have maybe gone full Timmy and played with an MC and an AMC, but then that's basically just copying the old manager's formation, which sucks. Yeah.
It does look a bit Timmy, doesn't it? I know it's Chudley and I know it's Timmy's old team, but that does look a little bit. It looks a bit Timmy, doesn't it now?
Yeah. If you put Amoroso in there, it's the Berea down there. It's that formation. But either way, he's gone with his own formation and he's dropping the MCs, and he obviously seen that it has worked for Hodgie, and he is from that neck of the woods, so maybe they've been exchanging ideas. Who knows? Anyway, I think the most interesting thing tonight will be the Sloths formation. Ryan, are you back from beer collecting duties?
Yes, I am back.
Okay.
Pour myself a nice glass of Pinot.
If Somerset Sloth Tactics, do they look familiar to you at all?
Yeah, is it the Palmerthinaikos? Pretty much what he's playing at the moment.
Yeah, that's what it's definitely looking like.
Yeah, he's sticking with Ballack after Ballack's been a bit terrible this season. I think he's really got a kind of lack of depth in the squad. But what I will say, he's got Rivaldo and D'Alessandro playing in the best positions, and DI playing at DMC rather than in central defence. I like that. I think it's strong, or stronger than it has been. I'd probably gone with Landon Donovan in there as well. I'm not too sure where I'm playing, but I definitely have him in the team. Probably have Yepes in. But I mean, from what we've been experiencing watching Sloths, I think this might be a little bit more exciting. Rob's absolutely brilliant, and yeah, probably he's definitely one of the highlights of the league. And let's hope he gets nothing against kind of Chudley here, but I hope he gets off the mark this week.
Gets a couple of points on the board. That would definitely be nice for him. Predictions in the comments. I haven't seen any. Oh, it's a hashtag pray for sloths. Sloths. Is it sloths or sloths? I'm not sure. Alf says 1-1. Ryan, what do you think? Will they have done enough to get a win away from home? Rob's side.
I'm going to go with a 2-1 victory for Rob's boys.
That's interesting. And Ian?
No, I see a Chudley win, to be honest. I think, Somerset, I think they just change it around a little bit too much. I think they had a good setup 2 or 3 weeks ago. It looked promising. I just think that this is a little bit one more change than they needed.
Comments are Alf says 1-1. Swindon's got 3-2 home win. 2-1 home win, says Ian up in Edinburgh. Let's kick it off and see what happens. Could be interesting. Both teams going quite attacking, to be honest, with a lot of attacking options, definitely. 2 AMCs and a striker, both of them up against 2 defenders. So. But then a ton of AMC or DMCs, obviously, which could nullify the whole thing. Yes, Crespo giving Sloths an early lead here. Not that early, but a lead anyway.
Yeah, they've had the majority of it, don't they? I'm not too sure what the stats will be like because I struggle to see cans is what actually happened. But yes, Sloths definitely looks strong.
Yeah. Fairly even actually. Five goals each, and 3 on target for Chudley, 2 on target for Somerset Sloths. So it's maybe down to the keeper again. Oh no, he's actually done a not too bad a job. But yeah, Ian, what do you make of Chudley? That first half performance, not really out of the blocks yet, are they?
Not really. I don't think either side will come out of the blocks, but obviously you've got a bit of star quality in Crespo who can go and stick the ball in the net. I think Rossini might have been able to do the same if he was left up there on his own. But not an awful lot to say about the first half, really, is there?
No, it's a bit of a quiet one, and obviously no one stands out particularly good or bad. Maybe quite a few, not that really that many passes in the kind of attacking half, but maybe that'll change in the second half. Ryan Crespo's come in for some criticism already this season, but a decent first half performance from him anyway, an 8, which is probably his best of the season if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, most definitely. He doesn't look like he's done too much this season, really. This tonight, even so far, he just took his one shot. So yeah, but I mean that sometimes is all he needs. Looking down the line there, they've not been fantastic. Simeone's having a good game, probably one of his strongest players in my opinion. I'll be honest, if you kind of hide the score though, you look at the way your team perform, you probably think you're losing. But so yeah, he'll be over the moon to be in front. If he can kind of keep 11 players on the pitch, which has been a struggle for Rob, then he's got a chance tonight.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely see what happens in the second half. Alf points out that Sloths are dominating in the air. Yeah, I mean, there's not been that many aerial challenges in total, but they've definitely won won the majority of them. Let's have a look at the stats here. Yeah, 63. They're definitely winning the headers. Tackles, yeah, the tackling is not great in this game, but let's see the second half and see what happens. If Chudley can find a way back in, or if Sloths are onto something with their new formation here, and they can potentially pick up some points, which would be a first for them this season.
Balak had a chance there.
Yeah, I've seen Harasimovic with a header as well.
They're not breaking through though, are they?
No.
Somerset's keeping him at bay.
Alessandro, I keep seeing him pop up. It looks like he might hold on though.
An injury to Liverani, that's going to be kind of costly in the long term. I guess we can just put this chap on for the last couple of minutes. He's the closest he's got to a DMC, I think, on the bench. Yeah, that's a bit of a damp script, to be honest. Chudley, it's almost as if the kind of I don't know if the change of manager has not really done anything, because it's kind of the same thing that happens. I mean, they're usually a little bit better than the opposition. They're usually a little bit worse at finishing, and they're also usually a little bit worse at conceding. Is that Ian? Is that an unfair assessment of how the Chotley team seems to be performing at the moment?
No, I think you're pretty fair. I mean, normally with Chudley you can blame the keeper, but the keeper's not a howler. He's only like one in. You've got a fantastic striker there who's been dropped and stuck on the bench, so I guess that's an issue. But no, I think the overall riding story from this game is you've got to take your hat off to Rob. I mean, he's under a lot of pressure. His team's not played well all season, and then he comes away from home and he keeps this home team at arm's length and ends up looking the better team. I mean, and he did. They deserve. They look the better team. So I think it's more about what Somerset have done right rather than what Chudley have done wrong.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the Chotley formation here, they've got the goalkeeper getting an 8, we've got Amoruso getting an 8, all of the defenders getting 7. It's only really Agat that's not really been flying down that wing, but the rest of them are doing sort of a pretty solid job. I mean, there's not a lot of key passes in there, but there are some finishes, and Harasimovic maybe a little bit unlucky not to get one in his 3 attempts. So overall not a bad performance, and certainly if you look at Sloths, like player by player, what do you think, Ryan? You wouldn't say that Sloths stand out as if being like, I mean, I know there's a few more. I mean, there's only 1-6. I don't know if that's better or worse. That's pretty much
It's the
identical.
same, isn't it? They're pretty much identical. You look at that and think it's a draw, and the same. Looking at the match stats, if you held up your hand over the top line, you think it's a draw as well. So it just helps out that Taby's saved one more on the day than Andre has.
Mm-hmm.
I'm first off to say a big congratulations to Robbie. He deserves that. He keeps trying different things. He's he's always great value on this Twitter account, and yeah, it's good to get a victory. And it's that man who I know he has a love-hate relationship with Crespo. I know he said he might want to send into some shithole like Swindon or Bolton. I think he's but honestly, absolutely brilliant and over the moon. And yeah,
victory video hopefully incoming from there. There's the Swedish mafia is out in full force harassing Scott for playing Harasimovic up front, with both Anders and Andreas saying that I would never play a lone striker with 11 finishing. Harasimovic is only 11 finishing. Toothless to have the Polish dude as a lone striker, which may be a fair point. I mean, he didn't score, so there is
Sitting
that.
on the bench.
He's got two, and he's made a couple of mistakes. Whether it's a little bit of misguided overconfidence playing at home to Sloths, and he thinks, let's stick Harasimovic on, he'll probably get a couple of goals and answer a few questions. But it's not really worked out. Rossini should have been starting. And I said this pre-season, I'll probably say it again. I said it when I was on comments with Scott a couple of weeks ago, probably a few weeks ago now, is that his best keeper's not even made the bench. And I know Ian was talking about Esteval before. He's got Pagliuca, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He might be 30, might be 35, 36, but he's still number one. He still say he's top 5-6 keepers in the league.
Well, he's fallen out of favor, and I think, I mean, Andre's performances have been 8-7-8, so that's definitely better than what anyone else has put up, even if it hasn't been particularly impressive results wise. But we'll see what Scott comes up with. I'm sure he'll get back to the drawing board and he'll come back fighting. He's got I think possibly another home game, but we'll see what he comes up with next week. We're moving on. We're heading over to Ireland. We've got this fella here. We've got Churchtown against Hooligans. This is one I've been looking forward to, because I like a lot of the players, and I like the sides, and I like the kind of the attacking style of Churchtown and what it brings with it. Sometimes it doesn't really work out for whatever reason, but often it comes with goals. And who did we have? We had Ryan, you were away for UB. I'll go Ryan first. Ryan, Churchtown. Good start to the season. Good strong side. They're not as strong defensively perhaps as they were last season, but apart from that, they've had an okay start. What do you make of Churchtown's start to the season? Maybe especially around Barry Ferguson and how little we've actually seen of him.
Yeah, whether it's opposition managers keeping an eye on Ferguson, maybe man marking him. I know that Chris Mack at Palmerthinaikos alluded to that's what he got Ambrosini doing a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's always entertaining watching Churchtown. Sometimes he's a little bit naive with his lineups, but it always makes it fun to watch. He's got a quality lineup. He's always attacking. He's got a couple of weak links in there, which he always seems to be. Which kind of, like you say, it's all entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too sure what you allude to with the defence not as it was last season. Is that because they're a year older? I don't think they'll have dropped off that much yet.
No, probably not. I mean, Oliver Kahn's probably still got more 20s than anyone in the game, to be honest. He's only 33. Maldini, not really dropping off. I mean, I'm not sure how much his pace has dropped since the first season or his acceleration, but apart from that, I think he's still very, very strong. He has got 1 for strength though, which I find odd. But
I think that might be one of his random stats, which hasn't really come through this time.
Yeah, and I mean, but then he's got Thuram next to him, who's
look at the 20s in that round column. What?
Yeah.
Just
20s, 19, 20 jumping, marking, 20 positioning, 20 decisions, 20 everything. So it's a little bit surprising that he's only got a 667 average. He always has 1 for strength, says Andreas. So apparently that's a
Yeah,
thing.
he does. Yeah.
He's I think Thuram is in line with Walter Samuel of Hools. He's probably the best out and out defender on the game. Really outstanding consistently, and he's never really one to get red cards as well, which I know a lot of better defenders sometimes.
Yeah.
You alluded to Barry Ferguson, who you've got up on screen. He's not actually played badly, but he's just not got the assists. And
I was going to say compared to last season with his 17 assists and 24, he's only got 1 in the first 6. That's obviously quite a lot below par. That's kind of what I was referring to. But he's not been playing badly, 783 average, and they have gotten the goals from elsewhere, and obviously must have the assist from somewhere as well. It's just a bit of a surprise to me that, considering how influential he was last season, that doesn't seem to have replicated itself now. But we'll see how that changes. It's not had the effect that I think it had when he got injured last year, and it was really a kind of a terrible time for Churchtown. It doesn't seem to have impacted him as badly this time. Ian, Hooligans, they're without Ronaldinho, who unfortunately for him got injured in the last game. What do you make of the replacement that they've got lined up here?
Yeah, Ronaldinho is a huge loss. Amar in the hole is spot on. I think Kennedy is the man where he is. The main issue for me probably in that team is, it's a bit of a talking point, is Elise versus Emerton. I'm a big Brett Emerton fan, and I don't see how Sunday Elise gets anywhere near that team when you've got Brett Emerson sat on the bench. But a great team who should be doing well, and he's once he gets some consistency going, he will do. Ryan mentioned Walter Samuel, one of the best centre backs, out and out centre backs on the game. Kroos has come in and he's looked good. Campbell with a 9 in the last game. I look at that team and I think everybody, probably apart from maybe Santa Cruz on this version of the game and Beckham, who I've never really got anything out of in the middle, I think it's a great team.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. It's obviously a completely new lineup up at the front. I mean, I think he had Salas already, but he didn't really play him. He's made a couple of assists. Santa Cruz has got a couple of goals. They've done okay. Interesting to see what Aymar's going to do in that slightly further forward role. He's not been great so far. They're still relying a little bit on Kennedy, who's remarkably their top scorer. But it'll be interesting. And as you mentioned, Olise is an interesting inclusion. But he came in after Brett Emerton had a poor game or something happened anyway, and I think he's the place is probably his to lose, if you know what I mean. He's played 2 games, and
Brett Emerton's obviously. I mean, for me, Brett Emerton is a wing back, and I think when you've got Brett Emerton at Hools, you might as well move him on because you're not going to play wing backs. But even as a DMC, I know that Elise has done okay there, but I'd still be putting Emerton ahead of him.
Prediction-wise, I can see that in the chat, Alf says 3-0 home win, Neil says 3-2 home win, Anders says 1-0 away, Hooligans, Swindon 2-2. Ian, your prediction for this one? Hooligans, have they got enough, or will Churchtown take this one?
Honestly, absolutely no idea. I'm going to go because, I don't know, I'm going to go Churchtown because they're at home. And I'm going to say Churchtown by a goal, but I have absolutely no idea who's going to win this one.
How few or how many? Ryan, what do you reckon?
Oh, I'm similar to Ian. This could go either way. I'm gonna agree with Andreas and Fifey, and I think it'll be a Desmond 2-2.
Okay, well let's kick it off and see what happens in the first half. Van Nistelrooy's back, obviously, after international duty and being dropped for a new signing. Everton, who's only on the bench. Ooh, early penalty for Hooligans.
Nice.
Mendieta puts it away. 1-0 up after just 11 minutes. I mean,
Looks like
oh my goodness!
2 goals.
2 goals.
Salas with
Salas with the second, yeah, against the run of play as you mentioned there. But Robin is quick to reduce the deficit. I mean, it's refreshing after the first 2 games. Oh, and now we're
already.
Now we're even. Larson with the equaliser. That's the 2-2 that you were predicting. Ooh, that was another penalty. It's definitely. And then a red card for Crosas. My goodness. My goodness, it's all go at the Swindon end. I think
we said before the game that Churchtown are always good value, aren't they? They're always good value.
Yeah.
I mean, whether they're home or away, whoever they're against, it's always fantastic to watch.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be some refereeing conversation, refereeing videos coming up, just for information purposes. Not that it matters because it's my decision anyway. I've moved Olise back to match the lineup of Churchtown rather than leaving 2 at the back. I think that makes more sense considering he is a defender as well. So and they are 2-2. If they were really chasing the game, maybe I would have done differently. But that's what's going to happen here. That's half time. So a very, very eventful first half. Poor goalkeeping display from both sides. Churchtown just perhaps being the slightly unluckier side, needing 4 shots to score 2 goals when Hooligans only needed 2. Very, very controversial. Let's have a look at that penalty appeal that was here. Close clipped the feet of Ferguson in the area. I mean, Hooligans perhaps lucky to get away with not having Close sent off as well earlier on then. And then Cross has kicked the ball away in anger, which is never a good idea, is it really? So that's his second yellow after barging into Robin there. Yeah, lots of talking points. Ryan, Churchtown's first half performance?
Well, for me, it looked like they were probably slightly on top for the full 45 minutes, and the 2 goals came against the run of play. But it takes a lot. I mean, it's a big thing to them mentally, kind of thing. I mean, 2-0 down, they stuck at it, and then the second half ended on a massive high for them with the goals. Larson, who I know Five is a big fan of, and he scored a few goals last few weeks. Robin, who's a class act, and then obviously the red card. I mean, Kieran will be rubbing his hands now, kind of thing. It'll be. I think probably the floodgates are going to open second half. You'd expect. Bit of a disappointing performance from Davids, but when you've got 8s across the board like Kieran has, you can afford a 5 like that.
Yeah, I mean, whether the floodgates will open or not, we'll obviously have to wait and see. But they have got the form of letting the floodgates open when a central defender gets sent off. If we think back to the opening game of last season, I think they lost 6-1 to Aster after the central defender Saul Campbell got sent off. Ian, you picked up on Beckham never really doing particularly well in the centre of the park. He's getting a 5, so that seems to ring true. Anything else that you want to pick out on this one, apart from Diego Crosas' pathetic performance up until he got sent off with 6 passes and 1 completed?
Yeah, they're up against it now, aren't they? I mean, I think, unless you're playing an MR or AMR, Beckham should never be anywhere near your team in this kind of company. I think they are going to struggle now. Yeah, everything that's happened so far in that first half is not going to help the conspiracy theorists of the Hooligans fans who have been complaining about referees left, right, and centre. and this time they're on the receiving end again. But yeah, I fear for them second half really. Three up front against 10 men. It's got to be 2 clear goals, hasn't it?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I think you said someone said 1 before the game, but either way, we'll kick off the second half and we'll see what Churchtown can do about it, or if Kennedy. Remember, they still have Kennedy, so don't write them off. Although that's a goal for Van Nistelrooy there, putting Churchtown back in the lead. In the lead. There's Oli Sadebi with his first of the game.
Yeah.
Now they're definitely in the lead, and there's
Yeah.
Robin.
Oh, yeah. Floodgates.
I mean, it is a problem. Oh, there's Kennedy. He's not going to be.
He will not be silent.
He's not going to take any shit, is he? I mean, I think that is a problem. If that's not great either, is it? For me, that is a problem with the narrow formation. That it's kind of, unless you completely redo it once you get a red card, it kind of leaves you open, doesn't it? I think when you have a wide formation, I feel like you can go narrow. If you start with a narrow formation, it's a little bit. It feels like there's a gap, even though there isn't. Even if you do go wide, and if you stay narrow, then it becomes asymmetric and horrible. But anyway, bit of a massacre in the end there. Poor goalkeeping performance probably from Klose again. Maybe. I mean, he's letting in a few. In the end, it's an easy night for Churchtown, isn't it, Ryan? If you're looking across the performance of the player. John Welsh with 3 assists and a 10.
He's still playing, by the way, John Welsh. I know I've mentioned this a couple of times, but he's a player which I think he's coming for a bit of, I don't say criticism. He's played well whenever he's been in the team, but a lot of people have been curious to why he's been playing. When the fact that he's quite young on the game, probably doesn't break into a Liverpool team till 4th or 5th season. But fair play to Kieran, he's stuck with him. He's always got a tune out of him, and I mean I won't say single-handedly because he's had great performances across the board, but he's really been an asset to the team tonight. Yeah, you can't fault that second half performance. They had the advantage and they've used it. Robin been class, got the man of the match there.
I was just going to have a look and see. Welsh intercepted the ball and found Van Nistelrooy with a low pass. Just going to see where all these passed into the area. Oh no, so he's just basically just fucking dominating the passing from midfield. Yeah, Welsh, he's doing well. He's doing well. Yeah, so a good performance and good to see him getting. I think he was torn between whether he should use Hersey or Robin. So it looks as if Robin's obviously got that first position nailed down there with that performance, 10 and 2 goals and an assist. That doesn't really get much better than that. And goals from a couple of his strikers as well. Well, all 3 of his strikers actually. So yeah, happy days, I guess.
After being very worried after 25 minutes, he'll be jumping up and down. Job done.
Yeah, definitely job done, and a strong sort of like second half performance on Ian, perhaps on a bit of a cheap background. I mean, David Beckham.
Yeah, well, I like Beckham. I mean, it's one of those, isn't it? When you get in these situations, you've got to remember the guy that he was against the guy that he was in this game, and Beckham for me. The only thing worse than Beckham in centre midfield on CM0102 is Beckham's regen. They're both garbage. But if you play him out wide, you'll get something out of him because he's not in as a critical place in the team either, and he can just do what he does best. But how you can leave Emerton on the bench and put Beckham or Elise in there instead is just bizarre.
I mean, even Deco is not a bad player, and perhaps would do a little bit better centrally. Maybe I don't know, but I mean, we'll see what Thiago and Jens come up with for next week. But that's a disappointing performance. Of course, spurred on by the sending off of Crosas. I mean, I think otherwise the second half could have obviously been a completely different story. And as we mentioned, he has got Kennedy, but yeah, overall not a great day at the office for Hooligans. Let's see that injury. 56, not too bad probably, but still. still not a great performance. And obviously Crosas getting sent off for kicking the ball away after being given the first yellow is pretty appalling. I wanted to just check the keeper. Close getting a 7, not too bad. Can't getting a 7 as well, so can't really say too much about that. Good result there, which means that next up we have got Midlothian. Let's see. So we've got Midlothian and we have got Aster Athletic. I know that Alf was trialing a tactic in the Kiev game. That he's was it Kiev or someone anyway, but that didn't really work. So he's gone back to something else. But we'll see that in a bit. First up, we've got Midlothian. Ian, you had a few conversations with with Mr. Campbell up in Scotland earlier today about the whole team of the week selection and I don't know, it's something about him being a union man and not being able to join the panel or something like that. I must admit I lost track a little bit, but
I lost track of Ian a little bit as well, because I thought the best. He was well positioned to take up his third invitation of the season to be in the Team of the Week panel and change things from within.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, from what I can gather, he'd prefer to just stay sat on the sidelines and complain about things, and he's not going to bother. I can see that there's a couple of guys in his team who he's got genuine shouts where could have been included in Team of the Week. I mean, Vieira was a given after last week. Fantastic performance, and I'll be the first to hold my hands up and say I thought Vieira for Kesman was a bad deal, but it seems to have worked out really well for him. Gattuso, I think Gattuso has been unfortunate. Gattuso has been very consistent, but probably not absolutely set the world alight in one individual game, but just played really, really well every game. For me last week, there was only 2 goalkeepers that should have got team of the week, and it was either my keeper or Shea Given, and neither of them got a sniff, which was one of the final straws for me. Carlos got in my team of the week, and he wasn't mentioned by anybody else. Which I found absolutely bizarre. Lizarazu got in head of Carlos, which was just bizarre for me. And then I guess what I would have to say about Ian, when he looks at players, he has an eye for a guy outside the league. And for all the talk about back, I would actually probably put a big circle around Duljaj and say fantastic signing.
I was going to say,
goes under the radar, not really mentioned. Always does a job.
5 games and I think he did pretty well last season. I mean, nothing spectacular. He's like Ardsley's fullbacks, isn't he? He's like Sauri, Candela, these kind of people. He's not like your Sambrotas, your Dedes, whatever. He's a defensive midfielder. He does a defensive job. Yeah, he's only got 12 for crossing. He's not the best dribbler, but he is very, very quick. And he can tackle. He's got strong teamwork, stamina, and he's definitely doing a solid job for.
Never plays in the same position twice on the trot either, and always does a job.
Oh, I don't like his name. That's Neil saying I can't even quantify it. I don't like his name. John Welsh. I mean, is that racist? I guess. Either way, and what do you make of his formation? The Highland Charge number 2. It's similar to something that you played maybe.
Yeah, it's nice. I've seen 2 or 3 sides trying to look a little bit BTEC over the last few weeks, and it's nice to see. I think he's gone for the 2 AMCs and 1 striker, and that's a short arrows, and that's the difference. Which it's quite conservative being at home and gives Alf half a chance, but I guess Alf doesn't entirely know where he's at the moment as well, performance-wise. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one.
I mean, he claims to have lost the plot in the comments. I'm not sure if that's the case, but this is his formation anyway. Ryan, do you think Alf has lost the plot? I mean, that's a bit harsh, isn't it?
No, it is a bit harsh. Yeah. I'm not too sure I like it, but it's definitely not as out there as some of the things which Fifey comes up with. He's gone with the kind of full the wing backs playing more central than going out wide, which is similar to what Andreas does. he's got one defensive centre midfielder and one attacking centre midfielder. I'm not too sure about Vogel with the forward arrow. He's one of the best defensively, but I'm not too sure how good he is going forward. But Alf will rant and rave about how great he's been this season. Jamie Langfield in the net, I would say he's lost the plot. Got to be his third choice keeper. Yeah, it's the formation isn't crazy. It's just whether he's got the players to suit it. That's my kind of take on it, really.
I mean,
the only thing is Langfield is just fucking, that's just crazy. He's I don't know what's going on.
I think the fact that Vogel has got he's very quick, isn't he? And he's got good passing as well. So maybe that's one of the things that's behind that. Creativity perhaps a little bit low for someone in that role, but not a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. It's just a shame for him that he couldn't get his shit together, to be completely blunt, when he was at BTEC.
Can I just I'll butt in there in a minute, and I'll just say, last game of the season last year, Vogel had a 10 for me.
Yeah.
And he played exactly where Alf's playing him now.
Yeah, well, so we'll see if that how that works out tonight. If he can be just as good or lucky or clever or whatever. Interested to hear your prediction, Ryan. What do you make of it? Your last comment and your prediction along with that, please.
Yeah, I was just about talking about Midlothian's formation, and Ian kind of took credit for creating it there a minute ago, and I would point out that's the formation which I started with in the final last year, and played several times. But anyway,
So you're taking credit for that one then, Ryan?
No, I'm not taking credit for it. I'm just trying to say that, I mean, everyone can rehash something and say it's their own. I just don't like people taking credit for something.
I think you'd really have to come up with like a Palmer or a Swindon for. I think we can, if we're talking about innovators in the league. I mean, all of the formations are great, and they obviously got their own kind of like differences. But I think the only kind of like innovative formations that Kieran to some extent, but I would say that maybe like one at the rear. I think these ones are all variations of the same kind of 3-5-2, 2-3-5. But anyway, sorry, I interrupted, Ryan. What you were going to say something?
No, yeah, I'll just moving on to my prediction without rambling for too long. I'll probably say Aster aren't on the best of form. The keepers have had a bit of a mare so far this season. I can see someone in the comments saying, Neil saying that Jamie Langfield will get a 9. I just can't see it. So I would suggest that Midlothian are going to take this one. Maybe by 2 goals, but I reckon we'll look back on the stats at the end of the game and they'll have similar shots on goal.
And Ian, your prediction? Midlothian home win, Aster away, whatever, draw.
Score draw, mate. Score draw.
Score draw. Well, in the chat, Alf says that he's going to win. Swindon says Midlothian going to win. Joe declares his everlasting love for me, which is nice. Thank you very much, Joe. Let's see if that has any bearing on the outcome of the game. I doubt it, but referee is Jason Power, so there's no visit from cousin Boyd McGregor or whatever his name was this week. Good early start, and there's back. That's back into back in the goals. He's not had the best start, considering how much of a hoo-ha there was around back when he was first announced as a potential arrival in the league, compared to what he's actually delivered. It's maybe been a bit underwhelming.
He stuck with him though, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I know he's dropped Alex this week. Oh my god,
that's not gone well, has it?
That's not great. So who does Babel come in for then?
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, there's plenty of people getting a bloody 5, so I'm gonna probably
Kutuzov, really babbling for Kutuzov? You'd say he's a waste of space, wouldn't you?
It's a tricky one. Let's see the position thing.
Collision.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other option. He's also on a yellow already. That kind of decides it for me, to be honest. And we'll put Babel down there, and
that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
And see how that goes. I mean, it's probably not going to go brilliantly, as my prediction, but we'll see. They've still got attacking options. Oh, there's Christian Vieira. He doesn't like to only have 2 people marking him. Well, he does like to only have 2 people.
South's not really hit the ground running so far this season. It's not looking good again this week.
Nope.
Wow.
It definitely isn't. Strong performance from Midlothian. They're winning pretty much all of the tackles. Let's have a look at who's doing well. It's Roberto Carlos who's doing well. It's Dulash who's doing well. Gattuso strong again. The rest of them, Klompe, Hofland, Ramalov, kind of sort of plodding around, not having too much to do probably. Ortega back, Vieira, Van der Vaart. They're really working very, very well together up at the front. Good early signs, good first half. I mean, again, a little bit like the Churchtown game. Obviously, when your opponent gets a player sent off, it's always going to be a little bit easier, or usually is anyway. But Midlothian's going to be happy with this, I guess. Ian, what do you reckon? I mean, it's a bit of a non-question, but anything that stands out for you in terms of the performance of the players so far?
Well, I think they were. I mean, I kind of said score draw, but I thought they were kind of. They were already onto this kind of performance before the red card happened. So I wouldn't like to say that Ian was only doing this well because of the red card. I think they were already kind of on this path. So yeah, well played, really well played.
We'll have a look and see what caused that. Biscan slid through Vieira. He's shown a second yellow card, so his second yellow after only 37 minutes. I mean, that's a tough one as well. If you look at the Aster stats, I mean, they were already appalling when we looked at them. We were spoiled for choice with people getting a 5 that we could sub off, and it hasn't gotten any better, Ryan. An experiment that didn't really work out for Aster, this one.
No, I don't think the red cards helped the ratings, but yeah, I completely agree with Ian that they were definitely second best before it happened. Yeah, I'm struggling to see any kind of shining lights. The attacking players, Kusov, Nikolai Smith, have hardly touched the ball. Zanetti and Placente are obviously not liking those positions, running out wide, both scoring a 5. The only shining light being Jamie Langfield, keeping it just to 2 goals. But I don't think I'll be happy with that.
He's on track for his 9. We'll kick off the second half and see if Jamie Langfield can keep the Midlothian strikers at bay, or if there are going to be more goals in it for back Vieira and company. There's a goal for Placenta there.
Wasn't expecting that.
No. Definitely wasn't expecting that. Obviously, Midlothian lulling themselves into a false sense of security here. We'll see if they can assert themselves again with only 15 minutes to go.
Oh.
Aster still creating chances.
Yeah.
There's a chance here, there's a chance there.
It looks as if Midlothian are just getting back in control in the last 10 minutes.
Oh, there we are.
Back coming in with the one to settle it there on 87 minutes, but a poor second half performance from Midlothian, allowing 10-man Aster back into it. I mean, they're creating obviously a lot of chances and ultimately getting away with it, but there was no need for that. Ian, was that kind of squeaky bum moment there?
There wasn't. I mean, at half time, I was going to point out that the only guy on a 7 in the Aster team got subbed by the chairman, but in the end, I didn't need to, because Midlothian stretched the legs and made a comfortable performance fit in the end.
Yeah, but the chairman does things, you know what I mean? That's what happens. Who was it that we subbed? Kalushny. Oh yeah, he was on the 7. Yeah. Oh well, Placenta scored in the second half. He was the one I was going to sub anyway. So, but either way, it doesn't really make that much of a difference when when Dulash got the 2 assists. You pointed him out earlier in the game, and back getting man of the match and 2 goals as well, which is something that he probably needed to deliver to kind of even keep his place in the starting 11 after those games that he's had so far.
I think when you bring the guy in and you make him captain, it probably puts a little bit more emphasis on his place in the team, and I think it's maybe made Ian a little more reluctant to drop him. Mind you, he's not captain anymore, is he?
So... No, he dropped him as captain. He changed Vieira changed that to Vieira.
But no, fair play to him though. He's stuck loyal to him, and it's paid off. So yeah, fair play to him. Yeah, he's got something right today.
Definitely has. Jamie Langfield didn't quite make it to a 9, but he got an 8, Ryan. So he's he can probably go home relatively happy. Any of the other Aster Athletic players who can go home happy after this one?
No, not really. Placente will enjoy his goal. I think he had 20 minutes where 20 minutes at the beginning of the second half where they came out firing, they got the goal, and then we kind of all got excited, didn't we? Thinking there might be a comeback on the cards, but then, yeah, Midlothian just took control again, and that last 20 minutes, last 25 minutes, it just looked like it was only ever going to be Midlothian getting an extra goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you've got to say that in the long term, the red card does make a big impact in the game and probably changes what would have been a chance of getting an equaliser into a bit of a procession from Midlothian. So back to the drawing board for Alf. I don't think he's lost the plot, but he definitely needs to find a solution to what's going on at the minute.
Mm-hmm. Zanetti and Placente, I know it works with Lizarazu and Cafu for Valen. Can we agree that Placenta and Zanetti plays at either left back or left wing back?
Are we saying there's much difference between the quality of Zanetti and Cafu?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Is this maybe down to team instructions rather than the quality of the player?
Not necessarily in the visible stats, but you know there are this kind of. But I know that Alf checks that with his scout thing, but you know their adaptability and how well they perform in their non-preferred positions. I know you can see that in later versions of the game, but here you obviously can't. I just don't know. I mean, he's obviously getting like high numbers, but they didn't play all of the games in those positions. He did play with wide players in a number of games last season. So I don't know. For me it just seems strange that you have those players and you play them so centrally. But of course, if you like the narrow formation, that's your prerogative to play them there and stick with them. And it does work for Valen. So maybe there is something there. Either way,
I would say
sorry.
Aster were kind of one of only, I'd say, 2, maybe 3 teams, and I mean this by no disrespect or anything, but if you look at the teams they were putting out at the start of last season to the teams that they're putting out at the start of this season, I don't think they're as strong. I think they're one of the only teams that are taking a step backwards in terms of what they can put out. I think everyone else has tinkered slightly and got that better team, and I think they've gone the other way. I think maybe Hools are the only other team who are in that category. That's what I will say. And I think if you looked at this game start of last season, you'd think that Aster winning away 3 or 4-0 victors here. And you look at the game now, a lot of people were expecting a Midlothian win, and that's exactly what we've got.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Andreas points out that Zanetti would be just as good as Cafu in my system. He has all the right qualities to play in such a position, and I'm not going
that's
to
the point I was making.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't like it. That's all there is to it. There's no logic behind my my assessment of the situation. Next up, we have got Andreas and we've got Valen against Hornets. So a bit of a tough one for Hornets, who's probably been, if not the unluckiest side this season, then certainly one of the unluckier sides this year so far. Andreas's formation is the same as the Aster formation, almost, apart from the arrows on the AMCs, and we've got the guys back. Ian, let's talk about this formation now, you and me, because we just had that conversation. Lizarazu and Cafu, although not their natural positions, seem to have done exceptionally well for Valen.
Well, you have a little microcosm here because we talk about the difference between Cafu and Zanetti, and there's not a great deal of difference. I think then you talk about the difference between Cafu and Lizarazu, and I think there's a world of difference. I think your guy who can do that job on the right and the guy who can do that job on the left is not quite the same. And I think Lizarazu had a 9 in the last game, and it's been well documented today that he would never have got anywhere near my team in the week despite having the 9 because he conceded 4 goals. I think you look at that last performance for Valen, and Cafu was on international duty. So I think you need both of them at the top of their game doing that. And I think while Aster have got maybe Zanetti who can do that, maybe Placente can't do that. But I think you look at the rest of this team and you just think, wow, great team, great manager. It's turned into a little bit of a machine. And you're all of a sudden trying to figure out how to stop the machine rather than anything else.
Yeah, he seems. One thing I will say, it seems as if Andreas occasionally tries different things. I think he thinks that he can get more out of the team, but every time he tries to make like a change, like last week, and he had a couple of weeks as well, and it kind of only went okay, and he's kind of reverted back to the strongest formation, which is pretty much had. I mean, apart from Fiore leaving and maybe Ayala coming in for Montero or whoever it was. I mean, he's not really changed that much around, so it'll be interesting to see. I think it maybe makes a difference that for those two, for Lizarazu and for Cafu, when we compare it to, for example, Aster, I think it makes a difference that he has Roy Keane in between them as well, and not Kalusny, who might be great, but I don't think he's Roy Keane, to be completely honest. But that's just a small observation. What will be interesting for me tonight is to see if Shevchenko can continue obviously his form and top the scoring charts. I mean, I was not disappointed last season with the top scorer because there were a couple of good guys in there and people with who got quite a few goals, but I'd definitely expect to see someone in the Super League getting more than one goal average per game. Ryan, Hoddesdon Hornets. Why has he not got an? Is that right? Why has he not got an arrow? Anyway, this is Craig's formation. I'm not sure why Davis is not allowed to run forward. It's sent via email, so I haven't done anything to it. The tactic file. This is what it looks like. Are you surprised to see Hornets going back to his 4-1-3-2 thing formation?
Well, as you alluded to, he's been quite unlucky in several games this season, not in all of them, but so it isn't that much of a surprise. No, it's a tried and tested formation for Craig. It's the one he's probably had the most success with. Yeah, he's probably, in my opinion, probably the most overachieving manager in terms of what he's getting out of the squad. I think he got a really tough deal with the draft, but he's done wonders with what he's had. He's still only playing one out of the two, but it's his Alcoa. Still, as long as he's got those two, I'd keep them playing together. Mm-hmm. He's got a really solid centre back three and Lucio, Lewison and Frey. They're maybe, that on par with some of the best in the league. It's just that midfield where you're missing a real marquee name. Petrov, he's got from out the league, same with Gudjonsson. Gudjonsson actually made a good start to his Super League career, despite being,
he's young and just come in. I think he's had a couple of really good games. Kieran says, "Is the one arrow not on intentionally?" I'm in if it is. It was like, I mean, as mentioned, he sent through the file. I haven't touched anything. I've just plotted the players in. That's what it looks like. So it'll be interesting to see what they can come up with against Valen here. There's a couple of comments. Alan could get rattled. I think it's just the teams that want to get past them, to be honest, that that are having a bit of a go. Comprehensive defeat of the Swedish juggernaut, running out of steam, etc., etc. Ian, is the Swedish juggernaut running out of steam, or will they have a home win against the Hornets?
We'd all love to think it was run out of steam, wouldn't we? No, I mean, I had this fixture 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I got a point, which was, one of my best performances since I've been in charge of BTEC, to be honest. But no, I think if you're ever going to think this sort of machine's running out of steam, I think you're probably deluded, really. Quality from top to bottom. I think the one place I think Hoddesdon struggle is they've got a load of good central midfielders, but they're all very defensive, and it's which DMCs you put in the MC role and which ones you drop back into the DMC role. I think it's quite vital that you get the right ones playing in the right place. Mm. And he does seem to keep shuffling them around to try and find which ones work best in those roles.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. 0-0, reversed. Oh, sorry, the same fixture last season. How do you see this one going?
3-2.
3-2. And Ryan?
I'd say that Hards are one of the few teams in the league who can get a point out of Valen. However, you still expect Valen to do it. So 2-1, I'd say 2-1.
Well, let's kick it off and we'll see. Shevchenko obviously in top form, but Hornets are back to their beloved 4-1-3-2. So anything could happen in this one. Con Diomis is the referee. We've not seen any Wades tonight, I think. Good early pressure from Hornets, I think, and then a little bit back again from Valen. Frey's probably going to be in for a relatively busy night, so we'll see how that works out. He's going to be key for Hoddesdon, I think.
I did notice that he swapped his keepers, Andreas, hasn't he? He's gone with Velaferopoulos rather than Toldo.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's. I think long term, I think the Eleftheropoulos is the probably the preferred option, and I think he's kind of just easing him in, making sure he gets enough games to kind of progress his attributes in the game, so he can eventually take over when Toldo goes away.
Playing the long game.
Yeah. Lots of shots and things going on, but not a lot of goals. Not a lot of goals in it so far. What's that? 7 for Valen, 4 on target. Hots 2 and 2. A bit surprising to see Shevchenko and Totti not doing so well, but strong performances from everyone else. Roy Keane obviously dominating in that central midfield. I don't know, Ian. What do you make of Valen's first half performance?
Yeah, I don't think we could be that surprised that Totti hasn't put in much of a first half performance, because that's quite, until recently, that's been quite Totti in the Super League, hasn't it? But it doesn't bode well for Hoddesdon, knowing that you've got all those guys looming on 7s, 8s, 9s.
Yeah, there could be goals in the second half, definitely. If Saviola finds his shooting boots and Shevchenko doesn't get sent off. Disappointing first half for Shevchenko actually, but it's been a bit of a of an odd one for Valen after. I mean, they've not had problems scoring in the past, but it was 0-0 last season, so you never know. Ryan, looking at Hornets. I mean, very surprising to see Shevchenko getting a 6 when Lucio and Martin Lausen are getting 5s and 6s. Joey Gudjonsson is really the star man of the show, along with the keeper. And any glimmers of hope for Hornets to pull a fast one in the second half and maybe sneak a win?
It's got to be counter-attack football, hasn't it? It's Craig will be happy with 0-0. Obviously, his plan is to absorb and try and hit them on the counter-attack, and that seems to be working so far. No goals. I think he's probably the best he can hope for. You've got Batistuta up front, so there's always a chance, but you'd expect that if either team are going to score a goal, it's going to be Valen. But yeah, Joey Gudjonsson again having a stormer. He played really well against me a couple of weeks back. He's been a bit of a revelation for them.
He plays well every week, doesn't he?
He plays what?
Yeah.
Sorry?
He plays well every week, Gudjonsson.
Yeah, he's been very good since he came in, definitely for Hornets. But let's see if they can hold on, or if Shevchenko finds his shooting boots in the second half. Well, Saviola certainly didn't take long to answer that question. He's got his on. He had the 4 of their 7 chances in the first half, and he's soon to he's quick to make an impression in the second half. Not really putting the game to bed though. A little bit like Midlothian and Aster in the last one. Home side not really putting the game to bed, but it has seemed a little bit more.
That seems pretty comfortable though, didn't it?
Yeah, I was gonna say it wasn't really as much from Hornets as we saw from Aster in the last game, and quite clearly no, they didn't produce anything in the second half, and Valen hold on easily for the 3 points over the last sort of 44 minutes of the second half. Very few corners in that game, spectacularly. Not entirely sure what that's an indication of. Lassisi, man of the match. That's a little bit surprising, but he obviously did well. Strong performance. Anything that stands out for you, Ian, here?
Not really. I think you say Lasisi is a surprise. I don't think any ex-BTEC player to get a 9 or a 10 is never a surprise to me. They all seem to leave me and play out their skin. So
go on to bigger and better things.
Exactly, that's no surprise to me. No, Roy Keane having 13 tackles, winning 9 of them, no surprise. No, routine stuff for Valen really. Apart from you maybe expect another goal.
Yeah, Totti getting the assist as well. So although he's not been that brilliant, I mean, I say he's not been that brilliant. He's still sort of like around a 750 average, and he's got 4 assists in 6 or 7 games. So it's not bad either. Perhaps a little bit disappointing that Shevchenko, considering the start he's had to the season, didn't get on the score sheet. But it is what it is. With regards to Hornets, Ryan, Stilian Petrov, the kind of midfield experiment. There's a lot of defensive midfielders and maybe not a lot of creativity in there.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's ever going to score, does it? With those guys in midfield. Yeah, your two kind of defensive linchpins, your goalkeeper and your defensive midfielder, are getting the best performances. Petrov, your captain, being terrible. And where he's strong, really, Lucio and Lewison haven't really come in and deliver him. Yeah, it's one of those. You're saying that surprising, I think, with Lasisi getting man of the match. I mean, that's exactly what defending's about, isn't it? Can like restricting your opposition to just 2 shots all game. And I think that's one thing which we could probably refer back to the team of the week thing. And it seems that they don't really warrant a pick if the opposition don't have many shots on target, as it works the other way. Where if you don't allow the opposition many shots on target, you should probably be considered for your team of the week. And anyway, back to Hornets.
We'll have to talk about team of the week at all. No, we better not.
Neil says Lasisi man of the match doesn't make team of the week. Calling it now. Who's left on the panel? Who's on the panel now? Fifey, Hodgie?
There's only me that's resigned.
Right, but who else is on that panel? I keep forgetting.
Well, of the ones who are vocal, Scott's really thrown his weight behind it, and he's been very. He's really played a full part, which is to his credit. Fifey, obviously, Hodgie, Chris Pack throws in a comment now and again about what he agrees with, what he doesn't. And I think Rob was on the panel last year. I'm not too sure whether he's on the panel this year or not, to be honest, with his level of contribution.
Right. Well, we'll see. Anyway, I think it's nice that it creates some kind of talking points. It's not always that you agree with man of the match and all of these kind of things. So that's just what it is. It's subjective, isn't it? And whether it makes sense or not is maybe up for debate. But we can have that debate again next week when we see the next lineup for team of the week.
My issue with it, I'll quick comment, is it just seems that similar to the kind of the predictions, that I think sometimes a player gets thrown in there just as a bit of a joke, and I think, well, if we're doing it, which I'm not doing it, so I say this kind of thing, and a lot of respect to the guys who do it, nothing against them at all, but if we're doing it, what are we actually looking at? Are we looking at the games and actually to put in who we think will win, who actually played the best, or are we just putting in a team just for a laugh?
Do you know what says it all this week is, and it's good that you're on, Ryan, is that team of the week included your striker Montella, and Montella got player of the week as well. He got a goal and he got 2 assists, and on the face of it, you think great performance. And my argument this week was Viduka, who got 2 goals and 1 assist, wasn't even mentioned in the conversation. He was in my team, but he didn't make the final cut. But yet, player of the week got the 1 goal, the 2 assists, and it made no sense to me. And I couldn't bring anyone's opinions around to that. I know Montella got a 10, and Viduka only got a 9, but for me, Viduka's contribution away from home with the 2 goals was the key contribution, and I just couldn't persuade anyone that it was.
I tend to agree with you, mate. Montella was great, but yeah, Viduka had. Dragons had the kind of the away game. They hadn't won a game all season. and then the striker, he goes and scores the goal, wins them the game. I mean, if you take Montella's goal and assists out of my performance, I still win the game.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen with Viduka. So yeah, I completely agree. It's the I can see Martin's comments in the chat. But you've got to actually look at the team, the players who are making a difference. If someone gets a 10 and he's a defender and they get a clean sheet, fair play, nothing against that.
Yeah.
But you can't have people who are getting beat and scoring a consolation goal and getting a 9 in the team of the week because they've made absolutely no impact.
The other one for me was Lizarazu, and people wanted Lizarazu in there. He was a defensive midfielder, and his team conceded 4 goals. And I mean, I'm not having him in there just because he had a 9. It was an unbelievable decision. But again, everyone wanted him in there, and where do I start when I try and convince people that he shouldn't be in there? It was a no-go. So I held my hands up. I said, I'll leave you all to it. Just don't sign my name in the corner of this little portrait, and we'll all be happy.
And just I completely agree. And again, to kind of allude to Swindon's comment that Swindon got beat. Ekiod shouldn't be in the team of the week.
No.
You play a defender on his own. He's going to have all the work to do. He's generally going to have more work to do than a normal central defender would because he's playing on his own. Therefore, he's probably going to get higher rating because he's got more touches.
Yeah.
Right? You still got beat.
The point I made to Fifey about this week was just because you send a guy, and Fifey didn't understand this analogy, which fair enough. But if you send a guy out to sea in a sieve, you're not going to just reward him just because he drowned with honour. He's still lost. He's still drowned. And he might make a lot of tackles because he's the only one there to make tackles, but you lost the game. The 10's irrelevant. It's not Cannavaro who was playing one at the back every week last week and still winning every week. Fair enough, Cannavaro gets in every week because he kept winning games and he was proved to be the best centre-back. But Ekiog just, how he was anywhere near the conversation just baffled me. 10 or no 10.
Yeah. That's I hope you both enjoyed the platform. It's both of you guys. It's your games we're waiting for. So I guess you can carry on as long as you want. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the conversation around the team of the week. I think it's quite good fun that that people are having a bit of a chat about it and obviously have disagreements and very good arguments both for and against. So long may it continue. But I do feel as if it would be beneficial to move on to BTEC against Palmerthinaikos, which I think is what we've got on our schedule next. So Ian, what's the story with Agahara on left back and what's your injury situation and yeah, I'm not saying you have to justify your team selection, but what's the reasoning behind that? I think he's the only kind of surprise inclusion on the left hand side. So what were your options there?
Yeah, I think you're right to flag it up. Ziraberto is nowhere near fit enough to play the game. So a decision had to be made there. I have Milevski and Contra coming back from international duty. Dyer obviously played right wing back last week and got a 9, but Contra's, I mean, I make no secret, Contra's my man. Plays every game when he can and never lets me down. So yeah, the one decision to make was left back. Did I bring Pure in? And I have a mental block with Pure. Still not forgiven him for his 4 that he had midway through last season. He's not played since. Milevski could have played there, but I wanted to bring him back in for Xavier. So it was a straight choice between Agahauer and Danielson. I like an AM or a forward at left wing back in the right type of team. And Agahauer played there once last season, had an 8, scored a goal. So I thought, why not?
Yeah, well, if it's worked before, and obviously we have seen it for other sides, the kind of attacking midfielders or forwards working in the fullback positions. You're up against Palmerthinaikos, and Ryan, we already spoke a little bit about the Palmerthinaikos side. So Chris Mack's gone unchanged for this week. Udese, Henry, two of your players. He's keeping Ambrosini in that the central midfield role to presumably to stop Emerson, although he hasn't been the most creative player I've seen so far this season. Nedved still out on the left-hand side. Joe Cole on the bench. Any big surprises for you in the lineup here?
No surprises. I would. You mean if you're looking at asking what I would do, I'd probably put Riquelme in the set midfield, dropped Ambrosini to one of the defensive midfielder roles, and put, as you kind of allude to, Nedved in the middle, because that's where he's strongest. You know, in the left-hand side centre attacking midfield role. However, you mean you can't really argue with Mack at the moment. He's top of the league. He's kind of throwing his kind of weight around and picking some kind of, picking Trezeguet, who kind of unpopular pick, playing Riquelme, who didn't really perform at Ardsley, playing Henry, who was hit and miss for myself last season. Nedved out on the left-hand side, dropping George Atos, who was absolutely key for Parma last season, but he's doing all these things and he's getting results, so you can't knock it. So if he goes 3 games without a win, then you start to question these things, but you only start to question them at that point, because if you keep questioning him and he gets the answers right, then you look like an idiot.
Top of the table is always difficult to argue with, and how do you see this one going? Do you see this his top of the table run continuing? There's obviously like we mentioned, he'd had a couple of let's say slightly easier games, perhaps BTEC away is a big test for him. So do you think he'll be able to continue his winning ways?
This different kettle of fish. I would probably, on paper, I think it's very, very tight. I'd probably go with a score draw.
Well, we'll see what happens. Kieran has got your back. Ian, he's predicting a 4-0 home victory.
Kieran always backs me. He needs to pack it in.
Fifey's not backing you. He's got 4-0 the other way. So we'll see. And Ryan's got a score draw, so that might be where we end up. But we'll kick off the first half, and we'll see how it pans out for you. A couple of early chances there. Pizarro and Palermo. Oh, but it's David Trezeguet who opens the scoring. Palmerthinaikos 1-0 up with just 6 minutes on the clock, despite a couple of really good chances for BTEC early on.
Back and forward, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say it seems fairly sort of well spread out in terms of chances. I will say there's a bit more white on my screen, but it's Henry getting his second. Palmerthinaikos really. Oh, and there's Edilson with the equalizer. I was just about to say something, really putting the hammer down here, but then just as I was about to say that, Edilson got the oh gosh, that word I could remember earlier. Reduce the deficit with a goal just in the stroke of half time. A bit of a keeper. Who's got the best keeper wins kind of situation here. 5 shots on target for each. Ian, coming to you first with regards to your performance in the first half. Disappointed to concede early, I'm sure.
It felt like such an even game. I'm surprised I'm down. It felt like a 1-1-ish sort of thing, but it's a dangerous team I'm up against.
Milevski, yellow card to 5. Lee Young Pyo waiting in the wings.
We'll see.
We'll see. With regards to Palmerthinaikos, so David Trezeguet really off to a flyer here for Palmerthinaikos, Ryan, and Thierry Henry, one of your players as well. Strong away performance from Mac's side, isn't it?
Yeah, he's Chris is looking at that France '98, Euro 2000 kind of French team and thinking Henry and Trezeguet and that team together is going to work, and he seems to got it right. I generally looked at, you were watching the game, I would thought that BTEC was slightly on top for that first half, but as you've seen in the stats, Palmerthinaikos have had the same amount of shots on target. and they've been a bit more clinical.
Mm-hmm.
I think, if Matt gets to away with a victory here, he'll be chuffed a bit. But yeah, you can't knock the performance. They're taking the chances, and form. Sometimes when a team's in form, they just get the rub of the green, which seems what they've got tonight.
Yeah, Nedved the only one who kind of stands out with a bit of a poor performance. Salihamidzic as well, so maybe the wings not working as well as they have been in previous games, but he's still getting the goal, so he'll be probably be happy with that. We'll kick off the second half and see if Palmerthinaikos can hold on to it, or if BTEC can find a way in. Trezeguet is this year's Episan, says Swindon Devils manager Fifey, which perhaps is true. We'll have to wait and see. He's definitely got some work to do if he wants to get back in the good side of the board. So even though Chris rates him, then I'm not sure his board are exactly delighted with it. But let's see what happens in the second half. Long 45 to go, obviously. Although the first 20 of them went by really, really quickly without a lot of action. BTEC putting on a fair bit of pressure there for a good 10-15 minutes. Oh dear. Oh dear, that's cost him. That's definitely cost him. Chasing the game. We're going one at the rear. We're chasing the game.
Yeah, that'll do.
There's no doubt about that. Although,
he saved it.
That's what happens when you don't specify your penalty takers. Oh, it didn't really matter. Riquelme with the goal there. Unfortunate, perhaps. Let's see what happened. See what happens with that. Ferdinand made a dangerous two-footed challenge on Henry. Referee looked over and assistant awarded the penalty. Not sure why he needs to look at his assistant for a dangerous two-footed challenge, but there we go. Anyway, Buffon did his best, saved the penalty, but ultimately it wasn't really enough. No shots on target in the second half for BTEC. Well, we've got the main man in the studio. What went wrong, Ian, with this performance?
Do you know, I don't know. Sometimes you get those games where you just feel like one side is the better side, and fair play to Chris Mackey's team, if they felt like the better side for most of that game. I think I need a couple of better strikers, if I'm honest, and it's something that I've been working on, all week. I'll continue to work on trying to get better strikers in, but yeah, fair play. I mean, I would probably issue a warning to the rest of the league now. I think Palmerthinaikos are a massive force in this league, and yeah, good luck to whoever plays them next week.
Well, it was definitely a strong performance from them. Ryan, they did struggle a little bit in terms of Salihamidzic, which was probably the only kind of weak point, which is perhaps surprising considering he was up against Agahawa, who's definitely not a natural left back. But apart from that, a very, very strong performance from them. Nicky Butt getting a 9. He's a bit of an unsung hero, isn't he, Nicky Butt, with his solid performances there, and obviously Trezeguet getting an assist and a goal. Onwards and upwards for Chris.
Yeah, he'll be chuffed with that result. He's blessed with loads of top quality central defensive midfielders. I took Deco off him, and he doesn't seem to have missed him too much. Ambrosini, Bolton, Power, Power, I think are all top class. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's looking at that again. You're looking at 3 players who didn't really feature much in last year's Super League. Trezeguet, who didn't really play for Parma, Riquelme, who was kind of out in the cold at Ardsley, and Henry, who was kind of not my first choice at Phoenix. So, and
he's got second or third.
Yeah, and so he's kind of looked at. He's got those 3 players scoring 9, 8, and 10, getting goals, getting 2 out of the 3 assists. So he definitely got. He's 2 unused parts, and he's made them into an effective machine. Mm-hmm. So he'll be, as I've said, he'll be chuffed. And as Ian's already alluded to, they're a tough team they're a tough proposition now.
Is Salihamidzic good? Let's have a look, Neil.
Yeah.
I think so. I think last season he did okay. I mean, he wasn't definitely not their best player, but he definitely did a solid job. I mean, his tackling is perhaps not the best for a defender, but I think he did relatively well, sort of going forward. Good crossing. He's very fast. Good passing. So yeah, he was doing quite well for Parma last season.
He's better than Dennis Romadal in that position.
Yes, yes, I think we can all agree on that.
I think he's probably better as a DMR than as a midfield right. But if he's going to play a midfield right and he's got the choice of those two, I would definitely choose Salihamidzic.
Yeah, I mean he does have Melchot as well. I think who perhaps got a couple of games for Parma last year. So that means that we know who's going to be top of the table. I think unless something very dramatic changes in the last. Were you equal on points or were you behind, Ryan? I forget.
No, I'm behind. I'm 2 points behind.
2 points behind. Okay, well, so that's that one sorted then. This will be interesting. We have got Dragon Destroyers at home. Ian, we spoke about this formation before. It's the same as Midlothian put out, just without a couple of arrows. You've used it. Ryan claims to have invented it, or at least used it early on in last season. Only one change from last week, and it's Kalatse coming in instead of, I can't remember, someone. Who plays their central defender? Is it a young English guy or something like
Curtis.
that? Curtis. That's it, yeah. So that's the only change. I think Lee Fowler played a 9. He obviously had a good performance against the Sloths. A little bit of a different proposition this week against Bolton. Is this like a sort of Dragons coming back into it, or how do you see this?
I think Dragons have proved they can come back into things if they get a bit of consistency in the selection, formation-wise, player-wise. I think Giggs is they've kind of shoved Giggs back where he had his most joy, which was left wing back. I like him there. And Lamey on the opposite side, underrated. I think Lamey's a good player as well. And I think he missed a penalty last week, did he? Otherwise, it would have been 4-1 instead of 3-1. But another good guy. The triangle up front, I think if they get that in the right place, everyone in the right position, I think that's dangerous. Kaladze is probably the is a slightly strange one because I guess most people see him as a DMC as opposed to a centre back. But yeah, I guess he can play there as well as Curtis probably.
Yeah, I think it was based on the performances. Tomasi got a 9 and Lee Fowler got both of them got 9s last week, and they kind of had to put Kalatse back in. So I think it was maybe the most obvious place to put him was in central defense. Where looking at his stats, I mean, he should definitely be able to play pretty much anywhere across that defensive line,
so.
maybe. But we'll see how it works out for them. There's still no place back in the side for Song Yong Kook, although he did get a tackle at some point. Ryan, in your not so spectacular away colours, unchanged from last week after that victory?
Yeah, it was hard to change anything. I thought that was, I've alluded to, probably our best performance to date. Therefore, you just got to give the lads the ball again, and they go and do the same again. It'll probably be a disaster tonight. But yeah, you can't say to any of those players who played last week, none of them got less than an 8. I don't believe, apart from Casillas. You can't really drop any of them. So I would kind of interesting stat for you before the game. Away from home against Dragons. Dragons are the only team in the Super League that Phoenix have yet to beat. So that's I think I've beat every other team apart from them at some point or other.
Interesting. Gary Neville still on the bench. That's 6. I mean, I'm not saying you're a manager who bears grudge against his players, but it seems a bit harsh that he's still not playing.
It was an unfortunate time really, because I do like Hornshaw and he's come in and played very well.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also when Stan was out injured, so I think I played Hornshaw and Brown for a game because I can't remember what game they played terrible and we conceded goals. But anyway, so Gary Neville is generally waiting on a bad performance from Hornshaw or Stan to get in. He's definitely not out in the cold and he'll be back at some point.
Very good, very good. A prediction, Ian, from you?
Oof. I think this is the hardest prediction of the night because I think Dragons have shown something last week, and if they can kick on, they can get something from this game. So I'll say some form of a draw.
Some form of a draw. Anyone in the comments, if we can take a break from speculating about what Parma could do with Palmerthinaikos for a second. Swindon goes for an away win in this one. Or Fifey, I don't know. It's because it says Swindon. Fifey goes for an away win in this one. Barry Panella, the referee, definitely owns a fish and chip shop in Swansea. Possibly. I think panella is the actually the singular of like a kind of chip that they have in Sicily or in the south of Italy, definitely in Sicily. That's made with chickpea flour, and then they're sliced and then they eat them as chips. So it's a kind of chip, but one of them. 3-1 Bolton, says Ian Campbell. Swindon has got your back as well, Ryan. But we'll see. We'll kick this one off and see what the Dragons have got for you. After the 3-1, or was it 3-1 last week against Sloths?
Yeah, 3-1, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I got quiet now because I have to concentrate on this.
Well, we'll see if you can get past the might of Lee Fowler. Well, you can,
Yeah.
Montella. Montella with an early goal there, 20 minutes in. Oh, but Lamy, who was pointed out by Mr. Edwards as a potential dangerous player, is back in with a goal. Oof.
Ooh, come on, man.
Oh, that's an injury to Kalatza. That could be a blessing in for you. We'll put Simic in. I think he's. I mean, he's an adequate replacement for sure. But perhaps a little bit surprising. Dragons really still very much in it. Ian, you pointed out Michael Lamy at the start of the game as a potential danger man and or a potential great player, and he's done okay in the first half. He got a goal. Brosi getting the assist. There's a couple of fives in there though, to be fair as well. So it's not all been plain sailing for Dragons.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't like Michael Lamy, really? I know he gets a bit of grief because he's always got this preloaded massive move at the start of the game, hasn't he? 20 million, and people think he's not worth it. But I mean, you give him a couple of seasons and you get him on form. He's fast. He's an absolute flyer down the right. And I had him in season 3 and season 4 in the last incarnation of the Super League for BTEC Troopers, and even though we got turned over every week, Lamy was always did well for me. In this Super League, he could, if you get him in the right team, if you put him in the Phoenix side instead of Zambrotta, no problem at all.
I'm not so sure. Ryan, would you swap Zambrotta for that chap?
No, I wouldn't swap him. But I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that
he wouldn't embarrass himself.
He could cope with that swap. Ryan could cope.
Fair enough. Ryan, your team's first half performance, you got the early goal, but then kind of seemed as if you're still under a fair bit of pressure to some extent.
Yeah, not at the races as yet. You see a few sixes in there, which aren't really what I'd expect from the lads. I think we look dangerous. I should be. I mean, I've not really dominated a full section of the game. But it's generally when I get some goals, they come in bunches. I got the early goal, and they seem to switch off. So I'm definitely disappointed with the first half performance. I don't know what else to say there. Really, I need to go up a gear.
Well, we'll see if you can up a gear in the second half. Perhaps reminiscent of your the game that you had the last time you were on, your 1-0 win against Swindon, where you're also away and failing to. I mean, I think you had a few more chances, but also failing to capitalize on any of them when perhaps you would have expected to be doing a little bit better. But we'll see in the second half if Phoenix can find their way, or if Dragons can continue to frustrate them. I mean, Zambrotta was only at a 6, I think, which is poor for him. We can see if he ups his game in the second half. He's probably going to have to, because Dragons still look in it. Definitely, they haven't given up.
Oh God!
Brosek is
well.
Yeah, he was definitely.
Good. Not good.
Oof,
Oh man.
that's a tough one. That's a tough one. So, commentators, if you want to win games, maybe not coming on the show is also an option. Pavel Brosek absolutely running the show. A goal and an assist. Simon Davies as well. Viduka back to his back to his normal horrendous performance. But apart from that, very strong performance from Dragons. Let's see, and much more effective. Less shots, but more on target. Ian, deserved. Is that harsh?
No, they felt like the better team to me. Dragons. I think I give them a good round of applause there, because tonight might have not made me look like a decent manager, but I think the Dragons have made me look like a decent commentator. So I'm happy with that. Sorry, Ryan.
No. Yeah, from my point of view, I'd actually, and please don't take any respect from this in yourself, because you beat me the other week, but I feel that's the first game this season when we've definitely been second best.
You were definitely second best against us, mate.
Well, I'll look at I'll watch that one back, Ian, if you actually think you were the better team. But yeah, they deserve that. They were better throughout, in my opinion. The stats kind of show that. We just really didn't get at the races. And if you want to talk about two players nailed on for the team of the week, then you've got Michael Lamy and Pavel Brozek, because they were world class.
Yeah, and especially considering the ratings of your two defenders, because there's still no way back in for Gary Neville, it would seem, with Stam and Henshaw getting a 9 and an 8. But everyone perhaps need to put in a little bit more effort in training. Raul, who's been doing so well early on this season, completely off target, which potentially could have cost you. Brosek getting the 9. I mean, he was a bit not so much in it in the first season. He didn't play that many games, but it seems that he's already starting to develop into something quite special for that Dragon side. So we'll see if they can push on from that. Interesting to see them getting 2 wins in a row, and see if they can continue to push up the table. We'll have a look at who they play next in just a minute, after we have a look at the table. So Ardsley and Palmerthinaikos out in front, both on 18 points after 7 games. We've got Valen United just behind them on 16. Churchtown as well with 15. Then we've got Bolton, so you're still in there, Ryan, with 13. Midlothian on 12, and then the chasing pack is BTEC, it's Hooligans, and then of the teams that kind of need to start thinking about turning things around, Aster, Churtley, Dragons have started turning things around, but they had a bit of a deficit, a couple of points to catch up there. Hornets and for a long period of the of last season, the familiar side of Swindon and Sloths at the bottom, unfortunately for those two sides. I think that's pretty much it there is to say about that. But let's have a look at the fixtures for next Sunday. Let's have a quick look at who you've got. Ian, you've got out of form Aster Athletic at home, so 3 points.
Oh, do you know? I felt so confident tonight, really, that I'd get something out of tonight's game, and now next week I'm just so not so sure. Next week will be the first time, rather than just sending you an email saying, "Are there any changes?" Done. Next week might be the first time where I say, "Right, you got a bit of work to do behind the scenes, Martin." Yeah, I think I've got a bit of work to do before I come up against Alf, to be honest.
Well, it's definitely a game where you're playing a team that's out of form and who might come up with something new. So it'll be interesting to see that one.
Yes.
Ardsley at home against Sloths. Ardsley looking relatively solid at the moment. That's going to be a tricky one for Sloths, although they obviously had a bit of a resurgence tonight. Chudley Cannons with, I think, the last of their 3 or 4 home games they've got in a row at home to Churchtown. That's going to be a tough one to call as well. Churchtown obviously not the away side they were last season, and Chudley still looking for that kind of winning formula. Dragons at home to Hornets. Interesting. I mean, Hornets not really doing brilliantly, to be honest. Hard to break down, but struggling to create anything. And against Brosek, that could be difficult. And then we've got the big one, Palmerthinaikos at home to Bolton Phoenix. Ryan, how do you fancy that one? After there's going to be some work to be covered on the training ground.
Yeah, it's a big night. It's the first. Is it the first? Oh, I don't know if Chudley played Ardsley yet this season, but apart from that, it's the first or second same town derby, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's been in great form. We had another great victory tonight, and then I'm blowing hot and cold at the minute. Not anywhere near where the lads need to be, so they'll need to step it up a gear. I'll have a look at what I can do. He's only playing one up top, which means I might switch things around a little bit. But yeah, I'll need to do something, because if I put in that performance again next week, then I'll be on the end of a hiding.
You'll not pick up many points, definitely. That doesn't look likely. And then last but not least, we've got Valiant United at home against Hooligans. So a tricky match for Hooligans coming up with obviously their kind of current worries of sending offs and injuries and unhappy players and poorly performing David Beckham, etc., etc. So it could be an interesting night for the top three. I mean, nothing is certain, obviously, but it looks. I mean, I would say the Palmerthinaikos Bolton game is probably one that's difficult to call. I would say that Ardsley and Valen probably slight favourites to win theirs, whereas I've got the Palmerthinaikos Bolton as more of a 50-50, but we will see. That's kind of it for me tonight, guys. I think we've got our couple of hours there done. So Ryan, thank you very much for joining. Commiserations, of course, for the results, but you do know that you run the risk when you come as co-commentator.
It is part and parcel, but yeah, thanks for having me on, mate.
Always welcome, and Ian, same to you. Commiserations for you for the with the defeat. You know what it's like to come on as co-commentator. You do run the risk.
Cheers, mate. I'll see you next season.
Right. Well, thanks very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. To everyone who watched it, definitely enjoyed it here in the studio. Take care and stay safe and all of these things. Don't visit any castles in Durham or anything like that, because you'll get on the news. And I'll catch you all next week.
Good night, mate.
Good night, boys.
Good night.